Today on Project Bodybuilding, we will be comparing your latest IFBB Pro show winner, Justin Shier, against your 2023 New York Pro winner, Tonio Burton. Now, I wanted to compare these guys because personally, I believe that both of them will be outside of the top 10 of the Mr. Olympia. No hard feelings, it's just how I see this panning out, considering this will be a very competitive lineup. And I do think both of these guys have the potential to eventually get into the top 10, but they both need some more size and improvements. And adding in some of the other smaller names with these two guys, the Olympia back end can also be very competitive. Just because these guys are battling for 15th through, say, 12th place doesn't mean it won't be competitive there too, just on a different level than the guys from the top 10. I wanted to compare these two guys because Justin is hot off his win at the Chicago Pro, and I think Tonio is one of the most complete pro show winners that will probably be outside the top 10 so far this year. Now, I did ask you guys about this comparison before I even looked at these two guys in these poses for myself, and at the time of this video, you guys are very split. Even as I'm checking it now, it can go between 50% and 51%, 49%, so about half of us think differently from each other, which should make for a very good comparison. And that's enough intro for this video. We have all the mandatory poses to go through, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you like these types of comparisons. Starting with the front double biceps, I want to give my initial thoughts and a quick couple disclaimers. The first disclaimer being, I wasn't too sure how tall Tonio actually was. The internet said 5'8", but you can never be too sure, and I was almost certain he was at least a couple inches shorter than that. So I just decided to not make him that much shorter than Justin, but I did try to size them up as if Tonio were just an inch or two shorter than Justin, because Justin has said before that he is 5'9". Another quick disclaimer is the lighting at the Chicago Pro versus the New York Pro is absolutely no comparison. The stage production for the Chicago Pro should honestly all be fired, and the New York Pro stage crew should be hired immediately, because that was god awful. So of course we have to take this comparison with an even bigger gram of salt than just a normal picture comparison. Now for my initial thoughts, I think you can kind of see what I mean from this pose alone. Justin is a brand new pro who did win his pro debut, by the way, hats off to him, but you can just tell he needs some size to hang with the bigger boys. His coach Matt Jansen said he only weighed 222 pounds on stage at finals. Justin may be on the smaller side, but again, he's a new pro, but more importantly, he has the lines. Justin is just pure aesthetics, and that really carries him, even though he may be on the smaller side. Tonio is also a bit smaller, coming from the 212 class just a couple years prior, but the thing with Tonio is that he can come in shredded, and he is very complete. He reminds me a lot of a smaller Dexter Jackson, someone that had a good well-rounder of a physique, and someone who could always capitalize on guys that were off, because he was the most consistent bodybuilder of all time. Now, actually going into this pose, like I assume most of these poses will be, this one is kind of close. It's basically what I just said. Tonio is more complete and sharper and has more separation everywhere, but Justin has the aesthetics and, in my opinion, the better arms. Tonio's do have more peak, but from front delt to elbow, Justin is just maxing out the amount of muscle on his upper arm, buys, and tries. And even though they're a bit flatter, I love that full look. So Justin has the better arms, which of course needs to be weighted more in this pose. And going back to aesthetics, Justin has the craziest silhouette. He has great lat taper and a smaller waist proportionally, and of course the vacuum is a nice touch. I don't like vacuums in the open too much in the abs and thighs, but I do give it a pass in the other poses, and I really like it here. This pose always comes down to the outline and of course the arms. So I gotta give this one to Justin for winning both of those categories. Tonio does have a crazy pose for this one though, I must say. Moving to the front lat spread, remember, like the front double, we're looking for a great outline and a lot of lat flare adding to that. And we all know that's Justin just with a glance. His shoulder to waist ratio clearly beats Tonio's, but I am just slightly reluctant to give him the pose because I just love Tonio's look. And that's for all the same reasons I've said before. He's filling out his frame more and is more complete, and that really gives him a nice compact look. And he is in better condition too, and I'm always partial to that, admittedly. Tonio, you can just tell, has been doing this for longer and just brings a level of polish to every pose and really throughout his entire physique. However, for weighting the silhouette of the physique, you simply can't deny Justin Shier based on that criteria. I completely understand if you want to give this pose to Tonio, because the only category he really is losing is the aesthetics, but I have a hunch he'll have time to shine in the next poses, so for now I'm going to give this one slightly to Justin. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we turn to the side for the side chest, Tonio starts making up some ground. Tonio's roundness and details really help him with this shot. I'd give him just about every area of the physique actually. His side leg has more separation than Justin and has some nice sweep even from this angle. The midsection I would say is a wash for both guys, but both athletes are keeping their cores tight and bringing some good hints of ab and oblique detail, and I suspect Justin's midsection would look very comparable to Tonio's if he had the same lighting. And of course, Tonio takes the most important area of the pose, the pecs. Justin's are detailed, yes, but they are just much more flat compared to Tonio's. Tonio's got the fullness and the detail. detail. The only area I'd give to Justin is the arms and shoulders, but that just can't make up for the pecs and the side leg. So Tonio pulls out his first victory here. Now shows are won from the back, so let's see what we have in these next 3 back poses. That's right, I do have a bonus one after this one, but first let's get to the back double. Now the first thing I notice about each athlete, for Justin it's the overall size, and because of that the great amount of width he has through his back. And for Tonio, it's one word: detail. I think it's especially clear from these back shots that Justin spilled over a little bit during his peak for the Chicago Pro. This wasn't the same story from the front, but when he turned around you can tell he is quite waterlogged in the upper back side, and you can see a lack of detail in the entire back. I do think his legs are pretty dry though. If we take a closer look, even with the shit lighting, we can see all kinds of lines through his hamstrings and where his quad sweeps separate from the actual hamstrings themselves. Take a look around there, you can see some faint lines. Tonio is the opposite. Not as wide, not as big, but shredded. We can see his entire lats clearly defined top to bottom and much more separation everywhere throughout the upper body. And even for the lower body, I prefer Tonio's hamstrings. He definitely beats Justin there, as Tonio's are just much more dug out. And like Justin, Tonio does have a good amount of quad sweep from the rear. So overall, while Justin's lighting is probably hurting him a little bit, I still think I prefer Tonio's lower body. And for the back, I prefer Tonio's as well. I like to see a lot of rugged detail on the back double, and Justin has the size, but none of the detail I want to see. Antonio does have a good amount of thickness and detail to make up for his lack of width. With all of this said, I'm going to give this one to Tonio. And here is the bonus back pose I talked about. I'll not be counting this pose towards the final tally at the end, but when I have both Christmas tree shots from both competitors, I always like to include it. And what can I say? This one isn't any contest. Really, I guess you could say I only have one Christmas tree shot because Justin is just a bit too watery to display the level of detail that Tonio is. I really hope Justin at the Olympia doesn't try to play the size game. I think really his best chance is to play to his strengths and bring those great lines with absolute top-notch condition. I think it would really complement his physique quite well, because right now in a shot that he should be winning in my opinion, Tonio is clearly beating him. Tonio's back is brimming with striations and those muscle fibers. He again has better glutes and more dugout hams. So if this was a pose I was judging, this would be a clear point for Tonio. Now for the final back pose, I actually think Tonio takes the back lat spread too, but honestly by an even bigger margin than he took the back double. It's kind of the same story in the lower body. I would like to see Justin in better lighting, and I think it would be a lot closer if he had that, but I gotta give it to Tonio. He still has better glutes and more conditioned hams. And for the actual back itself, I massively prefer Tonio despite him not being as wide as Justin. Justin is wider, and he is sporting some very thick erectors, but Tonio proportionally actually has the better taper from behind. Tonio is the one with the better lat to waist ratio. Also, what really helps Tonio is his dryness. Again, Justin does have that width and the thickness, but the wateriness is on full display here. The sheer size of Justin's erectors do make them stand out, but you can just tell there's a layer of water in his back, and he even has more skin folds here in the lower back than he did in the back double. Tonio, on the other hand, has the thin skin. You can see some vascularity, and his lower back is tight. I completely understand if you want to give this one to Justin. This pose is mostly about width after all, but for me personally, I just like Tonio's pose more, so I'm going to give it to him. Going back to the side for the side tricep pose, I think I gotta go with Tonio again. Starting in the basement and working our way up, Tonio has much clearer separation between glute, ham, and quad, but Justin has a lot more hamstring mass. Overall though, I think I prefer Tonio there. Now going up to the midsection, I gotta give the slight edge to Justin, but I really wish he was just hitting this pose entirely differently. He's rolling his shoulder forward way too much, and I think he should do the opposite. He should pull that shoulder back and showcase both his tricep and his great midsection, and I think that would really help him in this pose. But back to Tonio's midsection, and this here is a real nitpick, but there is some ever so slight distension at the bottom of his abs. But he does have great abs and obliques to make up for it, so I guess in the grand scheme of things, this area is kind of a wash, and I'm sure Justin would look even better in great lighting. You can see even in the shit lighting, he has a great core. Now in the pecs, Tonio's roundness helps him yet again. I don't think anyone is going to argue Justin's flatter pecs are better than Tonio's. And finally, the arms, and most importantly, the tricep. I think the delt is about even, all things considered, but I definitely like Tonio's tricep more. I think the main driving factors are that 1, beating a dead horse here, but the roundness from Tonio. And then 2, I think the size is actually comparable between these two guys, and with the better separation and pop, Tonio wins the most important piece of the side tricep, the actual tricep. And with all of that, Tonio winning the side leg, keeping it even in other areas, he takes this pose as well. Now, to the abs and thighs pose, I was expecting both of these gentlemen to be pretty good in this one. However, I was actually a little let down by Tonio's pose. His abs actually look the weakest here than literally any of his other poses. Here, they just don't have the deep cuts I'm looking for, which really surprises me. Honestly, Tonio should try to do what Justin's doing and add a little twist to this pose, because we know his obliques are good, and from what we've seen, his entire core would probably look better from that side angle. And that does bring us to Justin's midsection. Not only is he showcasing his diced obliques, but the twist he's rocking isn't taking away from his abdominals either. His abs are a bit thicker and have deeper separation than Tonio's, which is exactly what I'm looking for. But for the lower body, it's opposite as to who I prefer. Justin is sporting some nice striations, but Tonio has good separation and, more importantly, more overall sweep. However, the margin of how much I prefer Tonio's quads is not that large, and since Justin clearly has the better core, I think he does enough to win this pose. So for the abs and thighs pose, I gotta give it to Justin. Finally, we have our last pose, and this is certainly a case of saving the best for last. I really like each athlete's most muscular poses a lot. Even though Justin is a bit on the smaller side of Olympia contenders, I actually really like his pose. I think this is mainly coming from the symmetry and proportion he's bringing to this pose. Justin has great aesthetics, and he somehow allows that to translate in a pose made for mass monsters. I would try to point out good areas of Justin's physique in this pose, but like I said, I like this pose because of balance, and when you do actually have good balance, you will be hard-pressed to find weak and strong body parts because everything flows. A great point I can highlight though is the midsection. Justin is bringing very dry and tight abdominals to a shot that's usually used as a way to hide the stomach, because you can just simply cover the abs with your hands. But Justin keeps his hands a bit lower and showcases that he doesn't have a weak body part in this shot. The only thing I can knock him for is really the overall lack of detail. I just want to see some more striations everywhere and maybe a little bit more pop. Like I hit on earlier though, this probably comes down to his peak and the lighting, which is good news for Justin because both of those things will be different at the Olympia. Now let's go to Tonio, and oh man does he pack a punch too. And he blows me away so much that I'm actually going to give him the pose, even though I just hyped Justin up substantially. I touched on this here and there, but Tonio being a shorter guy sports that compact look. Think of him like a much smaller version of William Bonac, maybe Nick Walker, or even Dexter Jackson. He's built for this pose because he's done an excellent job filling out all the areas of his physique. He doesn't need to be 300 pounds on stage to look massive, because if a guy like him fills out his frame and maxes it out, he may never need to jump over 230, maybe 240. And I haven't even touched on the details he's bringing to the shot, which completely seals the deal. The roundness adds to the overall compact look, and I love seeing the striations in the chest and the good separation between the arms and shoulders. This is the most muscular pose after all, and pound for pound, we've all seen that Tonio is bigger, meaning he's packing on more muscle to his frame proportionally to his height than Justin is. And again, the details are just icing on the cake, so for the final pose of the video, this one goes to Tonio. If you have been keeping score, you'll know that Tonio won 5 of the 8 poses. The side chest, both back poses, the side tri, and the most muscular. Justin then of course won the front double and lat spread, and then the abs and thighs pose. So in a 5-3 decision, Tonio wins the comparison. Justin really dominated in those aesthetics dominated poses like the front double, but eventually Tonio's overall completeness allowed him to pull ahead in most of the poses, which is to be expected. Even in the poses that Justin won, I feel like Tonio at least put up a very good showing. I really liked his front double and front lat spread despite Justin winning both. When you have such a complete physique, you don't really fall off in any pose. You certainly can lose a pose because your opponent may be better, but your floor of how bad you can be isn't that low. And that's exactly the case for Tonio. I could have easily had him in the front double and especially the front lat spread, but for Tonio's winning poses, I don't think I could put Justin in the same proximity as Tonio was to him for Justin's winning poses. So overall, with a more complete and polished physique, this is a clear Tonio victory. Of course though, this is just to hype these guys up at the Olympia, where they're going to be compared right beside each other, hopefully, under some much better lighting. That's going to do it for today's video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss more comparisons and other types of bodybuilding content that I do here. Also, please follow me on Instagram at Project Bodybuilding 1, and I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.